Hello, my name is Ross. Today I'm going to be discussing history, and a topic that I find interesting to myself. Now, I want to present a thesis statement for something I am trying to argue. I believe that the Komnenos Dynasty greatly influenced the Middle East because of their role in the Byzantine Empire, the Empire of Trabazon, and the Safavid Dynasty of Persia. Counter-arguments that I want to address. Shah Ismail the First is only related to this dynasty via his maternal grandmother. By that I mean his mom's mom, who would be Despina Khatun. And if you give me a second, I can pull up. Okay. Another thing I want to address is that the Empire of Another thing people might say is that the Empire of Trabazon had little to no influence on the Middle East that lasted. So, first, I want to talk about Alexios Komnenos. When you think of the Komnenos dynasty, you should think of him. He was a Byzantine emperor from 1081 to 1118. And although he was not the founder of the dynasty, he was in power when it was because of him that his family came to power. They inherited a Byzantium that was on the brink of collapse and turned it around. With him, the Byzantine Empire managed to thrive. Another event that he kind of caused was the Crusades and his appealing to Catholic Europe to help against the invading Muslim Turks. We know a lot about Alexios due to his daughter when she wrote book the Alexiad. His daughter Anna Komnenos, which some stuff that I can get my information from, is translated by Elizabeth A. Dawes. Now, in the book, she discusses her father and his policies during his time ruling the empire, of which he saw a reconquest of Seljuk or Turkic-occupied Anatolia, managing to retake the coast. Now, another thing I just mentioned was because of him, the Crusades occurred. He did this as a way to try and regain land in the Middle East for the Byzantine Empire. However, the Crusaders decided against this, and as such, took the land for themselves, establishing their own kingdoms in the Middle East. Now, Alexios Komnenos had a son. If you give me a second, I will pull up my sheet on him. His son, titled John II Komnenos, was Byzantine Empire from 1118 to 1143. He was known to be a kind and cautious commander, never willing to risk Byzantine forces in engagement which could cause catastrophe. However, this is not to say that he wasn't good at command, seeing as he retook the majority of the western half of Anatolia and the coastal regions. He also fought campaigns against the Persians. However, this does not affect the Middle East as much. Now we should follow him on to his youngest son, Manuel Komnenos. It was under him that the Second Crusade occurred, and he saw increasing gains in Anatolia. As a result, the Byzantine Empire would remain strong long after he died. Now, with his son Andronicus I, or Alexios II, when his son Alexios was a child, his mother ruled. During that time, she was deposed after a series of revolts, and Andronicus I became emperor. He was known to be incredibly cruel. Though working though working tirelessly to root out corruption in his empire, his mistreatment or his treatment towards the nobility led to dissent and his overthrowing in 1185. After this, the Fourth Crusade would occur in 1204. This would mark the end of the Komnenos Dynasty in the Byzantine Empire, as well as the brief end of the Byzantine Empire, and where we transition to the Empire of Trabazon, founded by the Komnenos Dynasty after they were ousted. The Empire of Trabazon would last until the 15th century, when it was finally conquered by the Ottoman Empire. For a while, they would continue to press their claims as Roman emperors. However, this wouldn't last. Eventually, they gave up this title and decided to become the emperors of Trabazon. It is here that we see the remnants of the Komnenos dynasty hold on to power and successfully maintain independence of their empire. As it survived the longest among its successors, including the Byzantine Empire. However, they would still fall to the Ottomans in 1475. No, not 1475. That was my mistake. 1461. Their offshoot, the Principality of Theodoro, would last 14 more years, falling in 1475. Now, this is where we get to the interesting part. When you follow down the Komnenos dynasty tree, starting with Alexios I Komnenos, the Emperor of Trabazon, following him down to his son, and son after that, to Alexios II, to Basil, to Alexios III, and all the way down until we hit John IV, still a direct descendant of Alexios Komnenos. He had a daughter named Theodora, who married Uzun Hasan. Because of this, she became known as Despina Khatun. Uzun Hasan was the head of the Turkmen Akwanlu dynasty, known as the White Sheep Turkmens. It was his reign that he conquered the remainder of Timur-Len's empire in Persia, and after him, we would see the rise of the Safavid dynasty. Now, his daughter Halima Begum would marry a man named Shaikh Haidar. This is an important event. They would have 3 kids. One would become a sultan, another wouldn't, and the second son, Ismail, would become the first Shah of the Safavid dynasty of Persia. Under him, the Persian Empire, as we think of it, returned from its long slumber of non-existence. Now, we see here that he would go on to reconquer Persia and parts of the Middle East, clashing with the Ottomans. Following down his dynasty, we go through the entire dynasty of Safavid Persia. They are so important, having large influence on the Middle East and working to preserve Iran in the face of Ottoman invasion. In my opinion, it is because of them that Iran was never conquered by the Ottoman Turks, as well as leading to the Ottoman Turks not expanding as rapidly into Europe. I hope that I have sound somewhat cohesive here, and I would like to thank you all for listening. Again, my name is Ross, and this is going to be a new thing I'm starting called History Rambles. This will be the first episode. So, thank you, and goodbye.